That's a blessing right there. If you got your Bibles tonight, go to the book of Judges, chapter number 16. We've been dealing with Samson and his life here for quite a while now, and me and Brother Dennis were talking the other evening. He said, now you've got Samson in a pretty deep hole, a pretty bad spot. So, Lord willing, we'll try to get him out of his hole tonight, but he's not quite done digging it just yet. So he's going to dig just a second, and then, Lord willing, we'll get him out of there before the night's over, and we'll be able to finish up with Samson and his life here and be able to move on a little bit. But there is some things that I wanted to try to glean out of the Scriptures for us here tonight as I've studied and looked at it a little bit today and kind of dwelled on it, prayed about it. And the Lord has showed me a few things here dealing with Samson here. And with His help, I'd like to preach the thought tonight of when did God leave? When did God leave? Because that's what's happened to Samson. Of course, I could ask the question tonight, where did Samson's strength come from? And depending on who you ask, most people would probably say it was his hair. His strength lay in his hair, right? That's what Delilah had to cut. When she cut the hair, his strength left him. But the hair wasn't necessarily the strongest part there. If strength laid in the hair, then I'd be in a bad place tonight because I ain't got enough hair to be strong enough to walk in the building tonight. I'd be in trouble. But we know that the strength that was in his hair, so to speak, wasn't that it existed in his hair there, but that hair and the length of it and how that he had kept that vow to the Lord was a symbol of the strength because of the blessing and the Spirit of the Lord on his life. And when it was cut, it kind of pictured out the separation or the cutting of that relationship there between the Lord and Samson. But I want to show some things here tonight about when did God leave. Because Samson here, he doesn't notice it. He doesn't notice it at first. And, of course, we know how this story's going, what Samson's been going through right now. And he's gone to Gaza, and he met up with that harlot there, and he ended up having to steal the gates of the city and sneak out and all of that. And then finally he finds himself there in the valley of Sorek, that in-between place that we talked about last Wednesday night, a place where he thought he could let his guard down, but he was being lulled to sleep. He was in a dangerous place there. And we know he's going to end up falling victim here to Delilah and her games. And we talked at length last week about how in the world Samson could not realize the warning signs. How can you not see what is going on? She's lured you in, and she has asked you, where's your strength lie? And she tied you up with ropes, and she's tied you up with green vines, and she's tried to do everything under the sun here to try to get you to a point not only where you're weak, but she even told you, what do I got to do to make you to where I can bind you and afflict you in verse number 6 of chapter number 16. He knows what she wants. He knows her desires. He knows the reason she's asking the questions, but for some reason here, he just goes on with it anyways. And she ends up getting caught, or he ends up getting caught by her by shaving of the hair there. Let's pick up our reading here and let's go to verse number 17. Let's see, after she's vexed him and pressed on him daily and daily, he told her all his heart and said unto her, there hath not come a razor upon my head, for I have been a Nazarite unto God from my mother's womb. If I be shaven, then my strength will go from me, and I shall become weak and be like any other man. And when Delilah saw that he had told her all his heart, she sent and called for the lords of the Philistines, saying, come up this once, for he hath showed me all his heart. Then the lords of the Philistines came up unto her and brought money in their hand. Pop quiz. Anybody remember how much money they were going to give her? 1,100 pieces of silver from each one of them. You find it there towards the beginning of the chapter there. 1,100 pieces of silver, verse number 5. They brought up the money in their hand. If she had looked at them in a day's time and said something along the lines of, show me the money, they showed her the money. It was no longer a hypothetical. This has really gotten real at this point. She's got the secret to the strength, and now they've got the payment for the secret. They showed up with money in their hand. And she made him sleep, Samson sleep upon her knees. And she called for a man, and she caused him to shave off the 7 locks of his head. And she began to afflict him. Have you ever noticed that she's the one that threw the first lick? I ain't really thought about that before. But the very one that he is laying his head on her lap and sleeping and is so comfortable and so complacent around her is the very one that does the first hurting to him. Causes the first affliction there. She afflicted him and his strength went from him. And he didn't even realize it yet. And she said, the Philistines be upon thee, Samson. And he awoke out of his sleep and said, I will go out as at other times before and shake myself. And he wist not, he knew not that the Lord was departed from him. I read that as I was studying on this, and it really caught my attention. How in the world do you not realize that the Lord is missing? How do you not realize when the Lord is taking his hands off of you and he is no longer there with you? How somebody that is a Nazarite, that is very intimate with the Spirit of the Lord and has had multiple times where the Spirit of God has dwelt on him and has moved him and has done great deeds and is used to feeling the power of God. How in the world do you get to the point where you don't realize that the Spirit of God has left? I wonder at what point Samson looks up, probably about the time that he tried to go after them and they caught him. He's probably sitting there looking at his hands thinking, my goodness, what happened? What happened? The other day we started that homeschool co-op back up for the spring semester. Y'all know it's over at Locust Grove. There's like 65 kids in it, and my kids go as well, even though they're young. They have classes all the way down to nursery age, but I do the recreation. And we did some games with the younger classes, and then when the youth got in there, they said, we want to play dodgeball. I'm like, okay, I'm in on the dodgeball. Love playing dodgeball. But I was going to be nice and mature and grow up a little bit. So I wasn't going to play. I was going to sit there and watch. I'm not real good at that sitting and watching thing when somebody's playing dodgeball or basketball or wiffle ball or pretty much anything that involves some type of sport. I have a hard time just sitting there. But I noticed one team was getting beat. And I said, I'm going to even the odds. So I jumped in there. If nothing else, there's at least one more person that's got to get out. I might not get anybody out, but it's one more strike they got to get. So I got over there, and they're like, oh, yeah, he's in. Give him a ball. Give him a ball. Because they remember when I used to play with them. So they throw me the dodgeball, and I'm waiting, and I have to be careful. I don't want to hit any of the girls. I try to be very careful with who I throw at. One day I did cut one loose pretty good, and Brother Doug's daughter, Lara, walked in front of it and caught it with her face. And she had braces, and it busted her lip, and I felt terrible. So I was like, I can't do that no more. I got to hold back a little bit. But then all the boys start talking trash, and I'm like, all right, it's over now. I ain't holding back no more. But I'm sitting there, and I'm trying to be careful on who I'm picking. And I finally catch somebody that's not really paying attention. I'm over in the right corner. They're over in the left corner. And I'm just waiting. And I finally catch my moment, and I throw it, and it goes from about me to Brother Johnny and hits the ground and rolls. I'm like, what happened? What happened to this? I haven't played in months, but I used to be so much better than this. I wonder if Samson had that same moment when these Philistines catch him. I wonder if he looked at it and said, Lord, where did you go? You've been here. You've helped me through all these battles. Now where are you at? At some point in time, Samson had his moment of realizing, hey, it's just you, big boy. The Lord is not with you anymore. The Lord was departed away from him, and he didn't know it. He didn't realize it. So I put down 4 things tonight. 3 of them dealing with why or how in the world has Samson not realized that the Lord is not with him anymore? How did he not wake up and realize something's different here? I feel weaker. I feel more vulnerable. How did he not realize something was going on here in the text? I believe the first reason or first thing that might have kept him from realizing that the Lord had left him was simply the fact that Samson couldn't care less. Simply the fact that Samson just really couldn't care. You really think he couldn't care? Well, I'll tell you this, just looking at the text here, what did he say? She said, Samson, wake up, the Philistines are here. He woke up and he said, I will go out as at other times before. Me, myself. I'll do it. I'll take care of it. Not me and the Lord. Not the Lord with me as his little sidekick. Not the Lord going by himself and me sitting here and reaping the benefits. No. I'll do it. I'll take care of it. I believe pride got in his way here. There's a lot of times in the Word of the Lord, or in the Word of God, where the Lord is with Samson. If you'll look back, go to chapter 13 real quick. Let me just point something out to you. You'll find 4 times in the text where Samson does something real big, and every single time it is mentioned the Spirit of the Lord. How about that? It never says just Samson did this. It's always included the Spirit of the Lord. In chapter 13, verse number 25, this is right after Samson has been born. The Lord blesses him. And the Spirit of the Lord began to move him at times in the camp of Dan. The Spirit of the Lord moved Samson. Had him doing some big things. Keep on going, chapter 14 there. We find here in verse number 6, this lion has jumped out at Samson in verse 6. And the Spirit of the Lord came mightily upon him, and he tore this lion in half. It wasn't Samson, it was the Spirit of the Lord. Chapter 14, verse 19. The Spirit of the Lord came upon him, Samson. He went down to Escalon, and he killed those 30 people to pay off his debt that he owed for the riddle that was solved. It wasn't Samson. It was the Spirit of the Lord. You'll find it again in chapter 15, verse number 14. When those 1,000 come up against him, and they're picking on him, and they're hollering at him. It says the Philistines shouted against him, and the Spirit of the Lord came mightily upon him, and he picks up the jawbone of the ass, and he goes out, and he kills 1,000 people there. Every single time it includes that description, the Spirit of the Lord. The Spirit of the Lord. Over and over and over again to prove to us that the strength was not in Samson's hair, it was in the Lord that he was connected to. And now all of a sudden, not only is the hair gone, but the Lord has departed out as well, and Samson is still of the opinion that he can do it all with or without him. That's dangerous ground. That's dangerous ground to be standing on when we get to the point where we can say, I can do it. I'm going to do it with or without you, Lord. You might as well just get out of the way and let me do what I want to do, Lord. I know you want me to do this. I know this is your plan for me. I know that you think I ought to witness to that person, but I don't want to witness to that person. I know you think that I ought to go and invite them to church, but I don't want to invite them to church. I know that you're telling me to study more and to pray more and to be a stronger Christian for you, but I just really don't care to do it. I think I'll do it my way. I think I like my plan better. I think I like my ideas better. When we get to that point where we're so prideful and think that we can just do it all ourselves and we really couldn't care less what the Lord has to say and whether or not He's with us, you're in a bad, bad place as a child of God. What's the book of Proverbs say? Proverbs 16:18. Pride goeth before destruction, and a haughty spirit before a fall. What's Samson about to do? Fall hard. Proverbs 29:23. A man's pride shall bring him low. They don't get much lower than Samson's about to get. From the pinnacle of strength, a real Superman, so to speak, to where he's fixing to find himself. All because he was going to go out and do this. I'm going to go and do this. Man's pride will bring him low, but honor shall uphold the humble in spirit. I believe that he had an issue here with pride. I believe not only that, I don't think that's the only reason he couldn't care less. I believe he couldn't care less if the Lord was with him or not, because in his mind he's untouchable. He's untouchable. Think about it. What has Samson lived through already? Man, I was just walking around minding my own merry business. I'm on the way to the marriage feast. I'm finna get married. I'm finna go see my wife. Boom, here comes Simba jumping out of the woods, finna get on your head. I'm going to grab him out of there and I'm going to jerk him in half like he ain't nothing. I don't know about anybody in here. Lions are big. I don't care nothing about fighting a lion. But when he slays that lion, guess what? The lion couldn't take me. Goes on down the marriage feast. We know the story there. His wife ends up trading him out under threat of death. And ends up costing him his riddle, cost him his bet there. He owes 30 sheets and 30 changes of garments. He goes down there to Escalon, kills all them folks. 30 versus 1. The lion couldn't kill me. The 30 couldn't kill me. I'm untouchable. I'm on top of the world. Ain't nothing going to be able to touch me. I am invincible at this point. Then he goes on a little bit further. I'm going to catch me 300 foxes. 300 foxes is a lot of foxes. I'm going to burn down the crops of the Philistines, and they so scared of me that they wasn't even going to do nothing. They weren't going to do the first thing to me. Huh? I'm untouchable. Then the 1,000 come up against me. Well, here comes the 1,000, and guess what? They got me tied up and everything. Broke everything they tied me with, took a jawbone of an ass, killed 1,000 folks. I'm untouchable. They can't handle me. I'm the strongest, I'm the biggest, I'm the bravest, I'm the baddest. I am untouchable. I'm invincible. They can't handle me. Anybody ever heard of somebody like that? Strutting around like a peacock, think they're God's gift to everybody else? Invincible. Untouchable. I'm the best thing since sliced bread. I've met some folks like that. We didn't get along too well, to be completely honest with you. Samson here, he's got to be thinking in his mind, well, what's next? I done took down 1,000 folks by myself. What's next here? Am I going to go start fighting T-Rexes or something? There ain't nothing left here that I can be worried about or I'm scared of. I'm untouchable. I'm invincible at this point. I'm going to go out and handle these folks. By the way, he's already done it 3 times. When she jumped him up, said, the Philistines are on you, and he popped them things up, and he's ready to rock and roll. He's already proved over and over and over again that he can do it. Why is it different this time? It's not. He thinks that he is untouchable. He thinks that there's nothing that's going to happen to him. There's nothing that's going to cripple him. If we're sitting here this morning or this evening and all of a sudden we think that we're untouchable, we're in a bad place. We're in a bad place. If we're thinking that we are too spiritual and we're too strong for the devil to cripple us, we're in a bad, bad place. Because right as soon as you start thinking that, a lot of times that's right when it happens. I always get picked on by mama because I was real big when I was young about saying I got this. All the time, didn't matter what it was, I got this. And that became our inside joke to where she would look at me and say, let me guess, you got this. I'm like, yeah, I got this. Right before I fall flat on my face. I'll tell you about a story where I said I got this. We had some family friends that we used to always go to the lake with. And they had a ski boat and all that. And I got out there and I was kneeboarding and I was spinning around backwards on that thing. And I was jumping the wake. Man, I was having a big old time. And then the guy that we were with, he was a barefoot skier. I don't know if y'all ever been around anybody that can barefoot ski before. But he had the wetsuits on and the padded pants and all that stuff. He got out there on the back of the boat. He said, get it up to 40. And he said, watch this. I'm like, oh, here we go. That boat starts to pull out of the hole, and he wraps his feet up around the rope. And when you start off barefoot skiing, you start on your butt first. So he's just sitting there in the water, and he's got his feet wrapped around the rope. Imagine I'm laying down. And when the boat starts, it jerks him underwater. You can't even see him. And he's got to wait for the boat to get fast enough for his feet to have enough surface area to stand up on the water. All of a sudden, he just pops out of there, and then just boom, puts his feet down, and he's barefoot skiing. And me, I'm thinking that's the coolest thing I've ever seen before. I got this. I'm finna try this. So we put the boom out on the side of his boat. He did it on the back side of the boat. I wasn't ready to try all that. But he said, we can put the boom out. It's this big pole that hangs out the side of the boat. And he'd get up 40 mile an hour. 40 mile an hour is fast in a boat, by the way. And you'd get out there and you'd shimmy across that dude. And you get out on the water. And you put your feet down. And I got my feet down. And I'm looking around. I'm strutting a little bit. I'm like, oh, yeah. Things are good for me. I'm waiting for folks to go by and I'm waving. I'm just putting on the best show ever. This ain't hard at all. My first time out here barefoot skiing, I'm doing it. I'm rocking and rolling. I got this. Until all of a sudden that next boat come by and there was a wave coming. And I thought to myself, this ain't going to end good. If you're wondering what happens when your face hits water at 40 mile an hour, it'll turn your eyelids inside out. I come back out of the water. He said, man, that was great. You almost had it. You want to go again? I'm good. My eyelids, I promise you, one of my eyelids was turned inside out. Got up on the boat, pulled my eyelid back down, got it back right. He said, you good? I'm doing this, and there's like mud and lake water coming out of my eyes. I'm like, no, I ain't good. I thought I had this. I thought I could say I got this. And I might have for about this long. Samson here, I'm untouchable. I don't really care if I got the Lord's help or not. I got this. Okay, big boy. Okay, Samson. Okay, child of God. You go ahead and go around strutting around like a peacock and tell everybody you got this. I'll be the first one to tell you, if the Lord departs away from me, I ain't nothing. I'm going to fall flat on my face so quick. I'm going to take down all that's around me. I'm about to ruin this thing if it wasn't for the Lord in my life. I got to have him. He couldn't care less because of his pride and his untouchable idea. I believe he couldn't care less because of his complacency. Couldn't care less because he's gotten complacent with things going the way they were. Samson here is one of them people that everything he touches turns to gold, kind of. You know what I'm talking about? At the beginning of his life, it didn't matter what the situation was. It didn't matter if it was a lion. It didn't matter if it was 30 people. It didn't matter if it was foxes. It didn't matter if it was 1,000 people. None of that mattered. It didn't matter if he got caught in Gaza with a harlot and they set an ambush for him. He said, I'm going to walk right through them, pick the gates up of their city, carry them and set them on the hill over there and wave on the way out. Take me a selfie and put it on Facebook and say, look what I did. That's Samson's attitude here. I'm untouchable. I'm invincible. I don't have to have help. And it's always been this way, so now I'll be complacent. Complacency kills Christians. I'm just telling you how it is. You can take me for my word, or you can get complacent in your life, and you can learn the lesson by yourself. Because that's what it took for me to learn. I try not to be complacent anymore. How did he not realize that God left? He couldn't care less. I just really don't think he was focused at all on all the stuff that he was doing, and it being because of the Lord. Even when he got done slaying those 1,000 people there, what did he say? Y'all remember all that? He goes out and he takes out those 1,000 people, and he says in verse number 16, chapter 15, and Samson said, with the jawbone of an ass heaps upon heap, with the jaw of an ass have I slain 1,000. He cast away the jawbone. And then he calls out the Lord and says, I've done this. You've given me this great deliverance in the hand of thy servant, and now I'm going to die. It's all about me here. It's all about Samson. He's gotten to the point to where he's just thinking it's all him. I don't think he really paid much attention to the Spirit of the Lord on his life. At least not at this point. I believe not only could he not care less, I believe he didn't realize the Lord had left because he couldn't feel him when he left. Why couldn't he feel him? He's too focused on himself. He didn't even ask God for help. He said, I got it. But I noticed something here. There's a little word that caught my attention. Chapter 16, verse 20. He says, I'm going to go out as other times before and shake myself. I looked up that word in your Hebrew Strong's Concordance. You can get it online for free. I've got it on the Bible app. I looked up that word. That word carries the idea of a lion roaring and then shaking out its mane. What he's saying there is he's going to let out his battle roar when he shakes himself. He's going to walk out the door. He's going to do this number here, and he's going to holler what he's going to do. You ever seen them guys playing college football, that cornerback? He just gave up like 3 TD receptions right before that, and then he stops one guy, and he didn't even touch him. The guy just dropped the ball, and he's done that sheath the sword and acted like he did something big. You know what I'm talking about? Some of y'all that watch football know what I'm talking about. They act like they've done the best thing ever. We had a boy for Ole Miss. It was the number 32 or whatever, some of them games. He made one good play, and then right after that, he got burned and committed pass interference and gave him the first down on third down and something, and he's celebrating. I'm like, dude, what are you doing? Every time they celebrate, it's something's fixing to go bad. Something's about to be done for them. Samson is going out here and he's going to holler like one of these folks when they make a tackle and they just act so excited about it. Samson's going to go out and shake himself. But I thought about that. When you go to shake your head, what on your head moves? This applies to most of y'all. Don't really apply to me. Your hair's going to move. And all of us have probably had a haircut in the last year or so. Samson is probably somewhere between 30 and 45 at this point. That's a lot of hair on his head. He ain't never had a haircut. How in the world could he go out and do this number here and not feel that something's different? How could he not tell? Now, I'm going to tell y'all a story. And before y'all go blabbing to Sue and get me in trouble, I've already told her that I'm telling this story. Okay? I cut my own hair. I know that's hard to believe, but I cut my own hair. Sue checks my hair to make sure I don't miss any places. And she cleans up the back and around the ears and all that fun stuff that I'm not no good at. But I cut my hair. I've got a little Phillips Norelco, and it's a 1 millimeter. Oh, actually, it's a 2 millimeter, excuse me. A 2 millimeter little guard to put on there. And when I get done cutting it with the guard, normally I leave the guard on, and I just set it there, and I say, Sue, I'm ready for you to come check, make sure I didn't miss nothing. Well, last time I cut my hair, I took the guard off and set it on the sink. Sue comes in there, force of habit, boom, turns the thing on, shoop, right down the side of my head. Didn't none of y'all notice it though, did you? That was last Wednesday night. Cut about 3 inches with a no guard on the side of my head. I told her, I said, what are you doing? Are you putting racing stripes on me, trying to make me preach faster? What, lightning bolts? What are we doing here? I don't know what's going on. She said, you want me to just shave the whole head now? I said, I don't know, but I can tell you this. That 2 millimeter compared to a no guard, it was colder. I could feel a difference. So when Samson cut his hair or had his hair cut off, there's no way he couldn't feel the difference. There's no way that he could not tell that there's something different going on here. You know why he couldn't tell there was something different going on? He was distracted about everything else that's going on around him. You know how he missed the fact that the Lord had departed and was not there with him anymore? He's too busy watching everything else. He's too busy in his old head, rehearsing his victory. What did he say he's going to do? I'm going to go out and shake myself just like I have every other time. I'm going to go out there and I'm going to fight and I'm going to get the victory. We're going to do this, we're going to do that. They ain't stopped me before, they ain't stopped me now. I'm untouchable, I'm unmovable, I'm the greatest thing since sliced bread. Couldn't even tell that the Lord had left him. You know what I found in my life? And I'm saying my life because this has happened to me. The times where I've got way up here and I'm more focused on everything else going around me, I do not realize when my relationship with the Lord has suffered. Now, I'm not talking about losing your salvation, but I am talking about losing some fellowship. Because you will do that. You will absolutely lose fellowship with the Lord if you get out of your good Christian habits and you go and decide to do whatever we want to do, whether it's sinning in the world or it's just complacency and it's not doing and not being about the Father's business. When we get to that point and we're too busy looking at everything else, oh man, my schedule is full. I've got stuff on top of stuff on top of stuff. I'm going 8 nights a week. I just can't get no rest. Everybody needs something. My phone's ringing off the hook. Yada, yada, yada. It's all over the place. I ain't got time to pray. I ain't got time to study. Before we look up, before we realize what's going on, we're going to pay attention to it one day and realize, my goodness, I ain't been in fellowship with the Lord in a long time. I haven't just sat down and said, Lord, this is your time with me, and just prayed and just spent time thanking him for all he's done for us and asking him what he has for us to do going forward. You'd be shocked how many people are sitting there saying, I have no idea what the Lord wants me to do. Brother Barry, what do I want you to do? Yeah, you don't know because you didn't ask me what I wanted you to do. That's the point. That's the point. How in the world are we going to know what the Lord wants us to do if we're just sitting here waiting for divine intervention? Ask. Spend some time in prayer. Spend some time in the Word of God. Spend some time just going down the road, listening to gospel music, just singing, having a big old time. And I'm telling how many folks think me and Sue are crazy and off our rocker. I was telling y'all this Sunday night after Miss Samantha and Sam J and Sue sang. We have a hymn book that stays in the glove box of Sue's car. And going down the road, we will open that hymn book and we'll just go page by page until we get a song that one of us knows, and we'll just start singing that hymn going down the road. And everybody else that's meeting us has seen us over going, looking like a bunch of goldfish trying to get feed at the top of the pond with our mouths wide open. They don't know what in the world's going on, but we're worshiping the Lord and having a big old time, and we ain't really worried about what all them are thinking. When's the last time you got along with the Lord and you had one of those moments where it was just you and him? You didn't care no more. Samson doesn't have that. Samson's not having those moments right now. Samson's allowed himself to get distracted, and he's not even realizing that the key to his success, the key to his life, has departed. He couldn't feel him leave because he's too focused on himself. He took God for granted. Really? Mm-hmm. Yeah. What did he say in verse number 20? He woke up out of his sleep and said, I will go out as at other times before. What's he saying? He's saying it's going to be just like every other time. I'm going to snap whatever they used to bind me up with, and I'm going to go and I'm going to win. Always. That's what happens every single time. Y'all want another story? Y'all like my stories. We was playing baseball. I remember our in-county rival, South Pontotoc. I went to North Pontotoc. Coach Anthony told us when we were in middle school, He said, you will play these same people the rest of your baseball career at North Pontotoc. He said, beat them now, beat them bad, and they will never forget it, and they'll never rise up against you again. That's what we did. Just about every time we played them, man, it was run rules. One after the other. I played South Pontotoc from 7th grade all the way through 12th grade. And the only time that I can remember ever losing to South Pontotoc was on one of our teams. Let's see, it was either my sophomore or junior year. And I truly believe this is the reason why. This ain't part of the story, but I'm going to tell you this. We had a guy praying before the game, and he said the A word in the prayer. That's probably not a really good recipe for the Lord to bless the ball game that you're about to play. Not the best idea. But anyways, I remember playing against South Pontotoc, and it was expected when we went to play them, it was going to be just like every other time. We're going to win. We're going to win. There was never any doubt. There was never any question. We showed up, we're going to win. That's just how it was. Samson here has gotten that same mindset. I'm going to show up, I'm going to win. I beat the line, I beat 30, I beat the 1,000, I beat the Foxes. I broke everything else they've tried to tie me up with. I'm going to win. That's just what's going to happen. And when he got to the point where he took it for granted and he quit thanking God, quit asking God for help, guess what happened? He didn't realize God was gone. Y'all remember right after the children of Israel have crossed the Jordan River into the Promised Land, back in the book of Joshua, that first town they come to by the name of Jericho, y'all remember that? There's another battle that takes place around there close. The Battle of Ai. Anybody remember that one? What happened at the Battle of Ai? Anybody can tell me? They lost. They got beat. The Bible tells us they lost, I want to say it was 38 off the top of my head. Y'all go back and check me on that if you want to. They lost 38 people against Ai. They tucked their tails, they ran back home. And they're trying to figure out what in the world happened. You know what the difference was? They never asked God if they should have gone and fought Ai. They never asked for help. They never sought the Lord. Because guess what happens right after that? They seek the Lord and ask Him if it's time to go. And He says go. And they go to the same people that just beat them, and they beat them instead. They looked at the Battle of Jericho. They looked at all the other battles they've been through. Said, we got it. We're winning everything else. God's going to be with us. Yeah, He's with you when you ask Him to be with you. He's with you when you want Him with you. He wasn't with Samson just because Samson's a good person to hang out with. He wasn't with Samson just because he needed a buddy or something like that. He was with Samson because Samson had been keeping that vow. He was with Samson because Samson had been serving him. But when it got to that point to where Samson had decided, I'm going to go out, I'm going to do this, I don't really need help, I don't really care, I'm not really paying attention to anything that's going on, I'm just going to go and do what I want to do, I got this. When we got to that point, the Lord said, nope, and departed. And left Samson to try it on his own. How in the world, Samson, do you not realize that God has left? He couldn't care less. He couldn't feel Him when he left. But I believe he's about to realize that the Lord's left him. He wist not that the Lord was departed from him, and the Philistines took him, put out his eyes, brought him down to Gaza, bound him with fetters of brass, and he did grind in the prison house. After he's gotten to the point where the Lord has left him, Samson doesn't realize where he's at still. Let me give you an easy point. The Bible just preaches this one on its own. He couldn't see where he was. Guess why? He was blind. Hard to see where you are when you're blind. They put his eyes out. He couldn't see what happened. He couldn't see how to escape. He couldn't see how to fight. He was helpless. Here's another sports story for you. Played football in middle school, 7th grade. I'm not fast. I'm not. And I was little then. I'm still not very big, but I was little then. I'll never forget, I was chasing a kid down the sideline, wasn't paying attention, and I think the biggest guy on the other team hit me right square in the ear hole and knocked me like 10 yards off the sideline. And I got up going, sounded like I done swallowed a squeaky toy or something like that, trying to breathe. I got smoked. You know what they call that hit? A blindside hit. I never saw it coming. You know what happens to Christians when they don't realize the Lord has left them because they have left fellowship with Him? They get blindsided by the devil. And they never see it coming. Samson here has been blindsided. He has been smoked. They've blinded him. They've bound him up. Pay attention to that. How many times have they tried to bind him so far? The children of Judah tried to bind him before he killed 1,000. They tried to bind him with the green vines. That's 2. They tried to bind him with new ropes. What else have they done? They tried to braid the locks of his hair. 3, 4 times here they've tried to bind him. They've tried to do something to steal his strength here. And look what they did. They took him, they bound him up, put out his eyes, and bound him with fetters of brass. You know what happens when you're not paying attention and you leave fellowship with the Lord and the Lord departs from you and you lose that strength of the fellowship with Him? You know what happens to you? Things that never could have held you before hold you now. Those fetters that held Samson down, if he still would have had the Spirit of the Lord on his life, they would not have been able to hold him at all. When we lose our fellowship with the Lord, the very things that we walk over the top of with no problems whatsoever now, they just topple us. When we lose fellowship with the Lord, our patience is gone. When we lose fellowship with the Lord, we just get tore up and tear down about everything around us. The kids don't act right, gone. Day's ruined. We get to the workplace and they give us more work than we're used to. Boom, done, gone. I don't even care anymore. I'm done. Why? These little tiny small things that used to not bother us at all are way too much for us to hold on to now because we have departed out of fellowship with the Lord. Where does our strength come from? The Lord. When we're out of fellowship with Him, guess what we lose? Our strength, just like Samson did. Brother Easton, the Bible says that the Lord departed from him. No, not what the Bible says. The Bible says he wist not that the Lord was departed from him. It didn't say that the Lord did depart. It said that He was no longer with him. In most relationships, who is it that leaves? The Lord or the person? In my life, it's always been me doing the leaving. Didn't His Word say, I'll never leave thee nor forsake thee? The Lord was departed away because the Lord was right here and Samson had gone over here. And when we get out of fellowship with the Lord, the very things that used not sway us, used not bother us at all, defeat us now. I put in my notes that a small trial defeats us now, but I can't spell, so it actually says a small trail defeats us now. I've been defeated by some trails in my life too. We went on that elk hunt. I remember coming out, I had 30-something pounds in my pack, and we done gone 3-4 miles up in there. First day, I'm way up in that high altitude. I can't breathe, worth nothing. We're coming up to the parking lot, and I'm about to die. I'm already saying my prayers. I done told Brother Doug my wheel, who's getting all my stuff. I done got it all set up, ready to rock out of this world. I knew where I was going. But I remember Brother Doug said, come on, the truck's just right up there. And I said, I know where it is. I'll get there when I get there. Leave me alone. I'm about to die here. That trail had defeated me. Point being this. When we get out of fellowship with the Lord, we get in such a bad place where we can't handle nothing no more. Little tiny problems. Brother Doug said it well. It's one of his quotes in the back of Sue's Bible. He was preaching about Peter walking on the water there. And he said when we get our eyes off Jesus, the very things that we were walking over begin to drown us. Well, that was pretty good. The very water that Peter was walking on, the very thing that showed him the power of God in his life, the very trial that he was able to defeat, that had no sway, had no hold on him whatsoever, as soon as he got his eyes off Jesus, was the very thing that held him down. What's one of the best ways that we can witness for the Lord? I think it was Brother Johnny that prayed Sunday, or someday, and he said we might be the only Bible that somebody ever reads. Was that you? I think it was him. Brother Zuby Parrish says it at Hurricane quite a lot as well. You might be the only Bible that somebody ever reads. One of the best testimony, one of the best witnessing tools we have as a child of God is to live as a child of God and let everybody else see it. But when we're out of fellowship with the Lord, now the very things that we were walking over, the bad days that we were able to just have a smile on our face, the bills that were overdue, the health problems that we were able to exhibit faith through and everything else, those small battles that we've won with no problem, they're beating us now. They're binding us up because we're out of fellowship with the Lord. They blinded him, they bound him, and they broke him. They broke him. The Bible says in verse 21, they bound him with fetters of brass, and he did grind in the prison house. They took his freedom. They took his joy. They took his fight. What happens when a child of God is separated from the Spirit of God because they're not in fellowship anymore? You can't be happy. You ever heard this? The saddest person on the face of the earth is a child of God out of the will of God. It don't work. Y'all ever tried to teach a dog to quit pulling on a leash? Put a choke collar on him? Y'all ever seen that done? Put a choke collar on that dog, and when he pulls, it tightens around his neck. And every once in a while, he'll lunge and he'll pull. When it does, it'll tighten down on him. And then before long, he'll realize that when he stays close to you, things are better for him. When we stay close to the Lord, things are better for us. Things will not deter us. They won't knock us off our path as much. Things will be much easier in our life. And guess what you can have? You can have joy. You can have freedom. You can have happiness. You can have strength. You can have victory. You can have all of these things. Because Samson experienced them as well, did he not? Until he was no longer in fellowship with the Lord. That's the key to the strength in the Christian life. Staying close to Him. We're not close to Him. We're like that dog on that choker, and we ain't doing nothing but hurting ourselves, getting farther and farther and farther away. It won't work. We've got to stay with Him. Let me put it in perspective for you just a little bit. A lot of folks today, you talk to them, and they'll say something along the lines of, I've got no direction. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. I just don't hear the Lord anymore. I don't see the Lord working anymore. I'm not happy. I'm beat down. I'm depressed. I've got all this anxiety. I just feel like I'm going in circles just day in and day out. I feel like I'm going nowhere. I wake up tired. I'll go to bed tired. I just can't seem to get out of the rut that I'm living in. I'm just going around and around and around and wasting my time. You ever heard somebody say that? You might have felt that way yourself. Guess what Samson's doing in this grindhouse? You know what that grindhouse was? Big old stone in the middle, pole stuck out the side. They put that grain under that dude, and Samson would walk all day, pushing that heavy stone around, grinding that grain. You know what he was doing? He had been separated and lost his fellowship with the Lord, and because of it, he was torturing himself day in and day out, going around in circles, getting nowhere. Waking up tired, going to bed tired. Being mocked by those that walk by and say, look down there at mighty Samson. I'm not sure those stories are true about what all he did. Look how pitiful he is now. He can't even see where he's going. He's having to hold on to that thing because if he lets go, he's going to be lost as a goose down there. Look at him. The very one who thought he was going to deliver Israel from us Philistines, now he's down there grinding up our meal into flour for us so that we can have a meal. Going around in circles, doing nothing. Wasting away. All because we've lost fellowship with the Lord. But let's not leave Samson in the hole tonight. As bad as things might be in the fact that he has separated himself out away from the Lord, the Bible goes on to say something great in verse 22. Howbeit, the hair of his head began to grow again after he was shaven. I told you the strength wasn't in the hair, and it's not. But it was a symbol of Samson growing and maturing spiritually and realizing, hey, the only reason I'm in this place here is because the Lord departed away from me. I bet he spent a lot of time down there going around and around in circles, thinking to himself, what happened? What went wrong? I went to bed strong as an ox, and I woke up the next morning weak as water. I don't know what happened there. And finally, he had to realize, you know what? It's because I didn't have the Spirit of the Lord. I didn't feel the Spirit of the Lord when He got a hold of me. I did it without Him. When did God leave? There's a lot of times when we could look at Samson's life where we could say, oh, that was one place, that was another place. But I want to finish it up tonight and say this about Samson. Samson couldn't stay defeated. Catch this word here, this little play on words I'm about to give you. The Bible says that the Lord was departed from him, but it didn't say that the Lord deserted him. It said it departed. He departed away from Samson. Not that he deserted him and left him out to himself. Because what's going to happen on down through the text? We know the story here. Samson's in the grind house or in the prison house grinding that meal, that flour up. Then they're going to have this great big old party, and they say, go down there and get Samson and bring him to us that he can give us some sport. Go bring him up here so that we can poke at him and prod at him and throw tomatoes at him and make fun of him. Go down there and let's use him as a party favor, and we're going to get ourselves a good old time out of that. They say in verse 24, after they're doing this and they're hurting him, they say, they praise their God, for they said, our God hath delivered into our hands our enemy, and the destroyer of our country, which slew many of us. It came to pass when their hearts were merry, and they said, call for Samson that he may make us sport. They bring him in out of the prison house, and they put him in between those pillars, and he made them sport. But then Samson talks to that boy that's helping him and leading him around by the hand. Says, take me to these center pillars of the house and let me lean against them. And the house is full of folks. Says there's 3,000 people on the roof. He's got his hands on the pillar. But this is where the story for Samson begins to change. He's still weak right now. The Lord still departed from him. He's still by himself, struggling and fighting with no joy, no freedom, no peace. He has nothing. And then verse 28, Samson called on the Lord and said, O Lord God, remember me. Remember me, Lord, because I remember how things used to be. Remember me, because I remember how we used to be. I remember when your Spirit came upon me and I was able to slay all of my enemies. I remember when we were in fellowship. I remember when the bad days didn't faze me. I remember the workplace couldn't faze me. I remember when the bills couldn't bring me down. I remember when there was nothing in and of this world that was enough to take my good day and my joy in the Lord and ruin it. You don't know what the difference between joy and happiness is? Somebody else can make you sad, but nobody can steal your joy. Joy is in your heart. Joy comes from the Lord. Joy is something that you've got as long as you're in fellowship with Him. How in the world could you explain Paul and Barnabas there, Paul and Silas, sorry, not Barnabas, Paul and Silas when they're in the prison cell and they're singing and they're worshiping the Lord? What is that? Sounds to me like they had some joy. It'd be a little hard to be joyous when you're chained to the wall. Prison wasn't then like it is today. It wasn't 3 hots and a cot where people go to prison as their retirement plan today. It wasn't like that back then. It was tough. Chained up to the wall. Middle of the night, we're sitting here singing and praising the Lord. Why? Joy. Joy, 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 joy down in my heart. Where? Down in my heart. I think there's about 2 of y'all got joy. Maybe it's my singing. Maybe I just stole your joy. But anyways, if you're in fellowship with the Lord, you can have joy no matter the circumstances. No matter what's going on around us. Because we realize, above all, that if we've got Him, we've got it all. If we're in fellowship with Him, the Christian is so much stronger. So much better. It says, remember me, because I remember how things used to be. Remember me, Lord. I pray Thee and strengthen me. I pray Thee only this once. Oh God, that I may be at once avenged of the Philistines for my 2 eyes. Samson has finally gotten to the point. He's gone down to the lowest part of his life to realize that God was the one that made him special. It wasn't him and himself. There's a saying, says sometimes you got to turn a pig on his back to make him look up. Pigs have a hard time looking up. Sometimes the Lord's got to spin me over on my back to make me look up and see Him. Sometimes He's got to put me in a spot of defeat, a spot of vulnerability, so that I am forced to look up to Him and say, Lord, I cannot do it without You. Lord, I'm done trying it on my own. I'm not big, I'm not bad, I'm not near strong enough to do this thing without You, Lord. I've got to have You. If anything is done, it's going to be because of You. And that's where Samson has finally gotten himself. What did that verse in Proverbs say? I read it to you a little while ago. A man's pride shall bring him low, but honor shall uphold the humble in spirit. What was the change in Samson's life? When all of a sudden he finally got it figured out and said it's all about the Lord. Lord, if I'm going to get out of this hole that I've dug myself, Lord, if I'm going to be able to do one more thing for you before I walk out of this life, it's going to be because you come and you strengthen me once again. The Lord meets with him. Samson took hold of the two pillars which the house stood up on, one with his right hand, one with his left hand. He said, let me die with the Philistines. And he bowed himself with all his might, and the house fell upon the lords and upon all the people that were therein. So the dead which he slew at his death were more than they which he slew in his life. Then his brethren and all the house of his father came down and took him and brought him up and buried him between Zor and Eshtaol in the burying place of Manoah his father, and he judged Israel 20 years. I told you weeks ago when we started dealing with Samson, his story, it's not always a happy story. A lot of times it's a tragedy. But you can see Samson at his high points and all he's dealing with, and then we get to see him fall down. And that fall all starts when the Lord is departed from him, because he's left fellowship. As a child of God, it is our responsibility to make sure we maintain fellowship with him. Pray, study, worship, praise him, anything that we can do to keep that connection to him. If we lose that connection, we're in a bad place. We're in a bad place, and we'll be very, very vulnerable, just like Samson was. You know, while we often know that the Lord's with us, and we pray and we thank him for protecting us and blessing us and giving us the desires of our heart, sometimes I truly wonder just how much he does for us that we don't even realize. I think if the Lord ever took his hand off of us, took his protection off of us, that we would realize that he is doing so much more for us than we even realize. How many times the Lord has made us forget something in the house. We had to go back in and walked in, and then next thing you know, you missed that wreck that could have been you. Y'all remember, it's been probably 9-10 years ago now. There's a tree that fell down on 30 right past Stokes and killed somebody. Y'all remember that? Sue's family lives up on 30. Guess where I was? I was headed to Sue's house. And I got the phone call and said, man, a tree done fell down there and killed somebody. You need to go around this back way and all that. Come up on the other side of it. Could have been me. Could have been me. I don't know all the times that the Lord is sparing us from troubles and trials in our life. But I do know this. I don't want to find out. I don't want to try to do this thing without him. I don't want to lose the strength that he gives me. I don't want to lose that relationship and that fellowship that me and him have and that closeness with one another because I've chosen to go out and do my thing instead of sticking with him. It's very, very important. Very, very important if we're going to be able to stand against the wiles of the devil. Let's all stand tonight. And Cheryl, if you'd come play for us tonight.